Thank you, everybody, for being here. Welcome to the very first day of VCP STL. Feel free to, yeah, that's right. My name is Jason Kander. I'm the president of Veterans Community Project, and I'm going to tell you a quick story before we get started. I'm your master of ceremonies today, so I'm going to start with a personal privilege. I'm going to tell you a story of how I ended up in this role. About 12 years ago, I deployed to Afghanistan as an Army intelligence officer, and as I volunteered to do that, a lot of people asked me, they said, why are you doing this? What is your reason? You don't have to do this. There's no draft anymore. Everybody who joined up after 9/11 had this conversation with their relatives or other people who cared about them. And I always had this stock answer that I gave that I really felt deeply, which was a little corny, but it's what I believed. I said, if I do my job well, maybe I can help some other Americans get home safely. And like a lot of veterans, I never felt like I achieved that. And probably that was not something that even was achievable, but I went through the next decade at least feeling survivor's guilt, feeling all sorts of things. I mean, some of this has been in the paper, so y'all are familiar with it. That I had been unable to help really get enough people home safely. And that stayed with me. No matter how much change I made, no matter what position I would find myself in, I never had the opportunity to really feel as if I filled that hole. Now I'm going to cut way forward in that story to about 2 years ago. I was running for mayor of Kansas City. It was going pretty well, and I got a VIP tour of Veterans Community Project in Kansas City. My friend, guy who had volunteered on my campaigns in the past, a guy named Meyer, who you're going to hear from in a moment, had co-founded and was leading this organization in Kansas City. And I had heard all these great things about it. So I go and I check it out. And I saw this genius organization that had really tapped into something important. They had recognized that most Americans only get an opportunity to do something for veterans or to in any way give back to veterans when they're like at a ball game, for instance, and somebody is put on the Jumbotron and everybody gets to stand up and applaud. But there is, at the same time, this deep reservoir of goodwill that Americans, that Missourians want to extend to veterans. But they usually do not get the opportunity to do that. And Brian and the other combat veterans who co-founded Veterans Community Project said, let's tap into that deep reservoir of goodwill. And let's create a place where people can come to, and whatever it is they do, whether they cut hair, provide mental health services, fix cars, doesn't matter, dentist, veterinarian, we have things that they can do for veterans animals, for veterans cars, it doesn't matter. They created that central place. And I thought it was a genius concept. And I remember I went home that night and I told my wife, boy, I wish I could stop everything I'm doing and just go work there. But, there's a few people here who have been in campaigns, so that didn't seem real to me. I was in call time the next day, I'm sure. But cut to about 6 weeks later, where at that point, 11 years of undiagnosed, untreated post-traumatic stress disorder finally got to a point where I knew that my life was in danger, and I was going to have to do something about it. I was going to have to stop running and confront what had been haunting me since I left Afghanistan. So I decided I was going to go to the VA, and I was going to get treatment. And I showed up at the VA, and I found out that process was a lot more difficult than I expected. Now, I am a person, with a phone full of influential contacts, with a law degree, with pretty high-level government experience. And I was pretty well lost as to what to do. So you know what I did? I texted my friend Brian Meyer, the co-founder and the leader of Veterans Community Project, and I was like, hey, tomorrow, the whole world's going to find out that I have PTSD. Right now, you and a few other people know, I went to the VA. I don't know how to get access to these services. And he said, come on in. So 6 weeks after my VIP tour of VCP, I walked through the front doors of the outreach center like thousands of other veterans before me. They expedited my paperwork. They handled everything that I needed. And a week later, I was in weekly therapy at the VA. It went well for me, to say the least, and it made a huge difference in my life. It may have saved my life. So I started hanging around VCP. I like to say I was volunteering. I was hanging around VCP. It was a place that inspired me, and I just wanted to be there a lot. And at that point, Kansas City was the only, I think really still is just about one of the only cities in the country that had truly eradicated veterans homelessness, street homelessness, and they'd done it with the help of VCP. So all these communities around the country were reaching out and saying, hey, we would like you to come and we'd like you to do it here. And, the people who had started the Kansas City branch of VCP, they had never really envisioned going farther than that. So at one point, Brian said to me, hey man, you've started a national organization before. I know you're not sure what you want to do with the rest of your life. You want to just come here and build this into a national thing? I was like, yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea. That's how I became the president of Veterans Community Project. And so today is a very special day for me because over the last few weeks, we have broken ground in Colorado. We're dedicating land in St. Louis. Next year, we will go into probably at least 5 major cities across America with the long-term goal of ending veterans homelessness and serving every veteran in this country. But what I think this crowd should be particularly proud of is that this is a day when we start the endeavor for Missouri to become the very first state in the country to eradicate veterans homelessness statewide. And so for me, to kind of go back to where I started, I spent a lot of years feeling like I was unsuccessful in trying to help some other people come home safely. And now I have a job where that's what we do every day, is we help Americans who have served this country get home safely. And it means the world to me that all of you are here to help us do that. Now, I'm going to introduce somebody here. I'm going to bring up Brian Meyer. Brian is going to give you, he's the central character in the story I just told you, and he is going to give you sort of the origin story of Veterans Community Project. I'm just going to give you the tiniest piece of information about Brian. It's all you really need to know. Brian is a 2-tour Marine veteran who maxed out his credit cards and took a second mortgage on his house to create Veterans Community Project. So today is a pretty big day to him as well, I'd say. So please bring him up here with me, if you will.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jason. So, origins of VCP. That's complicated, but I'll tell you my origins with VCP. So, as Jason mentioned, I was in the Marine Corps, and when I came home, I had some struggles myself. Fast forward about 6-7 years from when I was really struggling the most, I found myself with a law degree and a great job and all things really going well in my life, and it came over me at that point that a step left, a step right, I'm a very different person. Luckily for me, by that time, I had met a group of combat vets in Kansas City that all kind of felt the same way, that they all had this desire, we all had it as a group, to do more. And actually, I'd like to point out why I say that. One of the other co-founders of the organization is here, Vinny. Why don't you just say hi real quick? So we got together and we said to ourselves, okay, if we could do whatever we wanted, rules do not apply to us. We just want to serve veterans in the best way possible. What does that look like? And after a lot of discussion, a lot of evolving ideas, we landed on 2 things. All right? So we landed on a village of tiny homes as transitional housing for the homeless population. But more important, or just as important as the houses, or we offer on-site wraparound case management services to address those underlying issues, get people back on their feet, then find them that permanent housing solution. In addition to, the little less known thing we do is we offer walk-in clinics for any veteran. It does not matter, it's not homeless or anything like that. Any veteran can come in and receive help. Back to how Jason got involved with us. Those were our walk-in services. But what I really want to take the opportunity to tell you all, because you're going to learn so much more about VCP in the coming months and years, and I'm so excited for this community, is I want to point out what VCP really is. VCP is more than housing. Veterans Community Project is a living memorial to a promise we've all made. When I was deployed, when we were deployed, it was my job to make sure nobody got left behind. But now that we're home, it is the entire community's job. It is the fulfillment of that promise not to leave you behind. And that is the living memorial that VCP represents. It's a community stepping up and saying, we're not going to wait for somebody else to fix this. We're not going to leave people in our community behind. We're going to do something about it. And that's why I'm so excited right now, is because the opportunity to do that is impactful, and it's life-changing. Now, I say that, but I also want to be very clear on something. Today's a big day, and a lot's gone into getting here, but today's the start. Today is the day that we start a very long, hard process of making this thing reality. It's hard work, it's worthy work. I'm so excited for this community. I'm so excited to have you guys do better than we did in Kansas City. That's my goal every single time. Let's make it better than the time we did it before. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm excited for you. And I can't wait to impact lives of some veterans here in St. Louis. Thank you.
One thing I forgot to do is I've been around politics enough that I'm not going to like recognize every elected official here because I'll forget people. So if you're elected to something, wave like really big. Thank you. Including, yes, everybody. Okay, I saw you. You're like, we really appreciate your support. We appreciate y'all being here so much. Now, a VCP expansion project, it requires three things. It requires land, it requires money, and it requires local champions. So I want to take a moment to thank a few of our St. Louis local champions. So 2 years ago, we talked Grant Mecklin and the Sandstone team into helping guide this project into what it is today. So this doesn't get done without them. They enlisted the help of Chris Goodson from the Field Grocery Group and All Things St. Louis. Chris was good enough to introduce us to Otis Williams and his team at the St. Louis Development Corp. We worked closely with both the SLDC and our friend Laura Costello at the LRA to identify parcels controlled by the LRA that we could assemble. You're sitting in them now. After bugging Laura almost every day for the last year, we're delighted that she's here today and still speaking to us. Ultimately, 31 of the 35 parcels acquired for this project were controlled by the LRA, so their cooperation was invaluable. And we want to thank the Board of Aldermen and the Mayor's office for their help in that process as well. This site is unique in that it includes properties in 3 different wards. So without the support and guidance of Alderman Jesse Todd, Alderwoman Marlene Davis, and Alderwoman Gwendolyn Evans, we would not be here today. So can we do a quick round of applause for them as well? Thank you. Grant and the Sandstone team were able to assemble an incredible professional group to assist in helping us acquire, plan, and design and construct the community moving forward. The following individuals and their organizations have already devoted hundreds of hours on phone, on Zoom calls, and planning sessions. Kevin Fleming as legal representative, American Title for their help clearing the way, Castle Contracting for civil design and construction, Vern Rimiger's team for the architectural work, and Aaron Rutherford of Kadeen Construction. These individuals and their organizations are some of the best St. Louis has to offer, and we could not have progressed this far without their contributions and their advice and counsel. So please join me in thanking all of these amazing local champions. Now, over the next few speakers, I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of tell you the full story of how we got to where we are right now and where we're going from here. So I'm going to start with several months ago. Governor Mike Parson made his second visit to Veterans Community Project, our village in Kansas City. And, you know, in that conversation, which obviously went very well, he was inspired by the place just as I was inspired by the place the first time I showed up. We all sat down and we started to get very creative. And so we're obviously very thankful to the governor because he decided, in looking at it, that it was important for this project to go in his budget, that he would submit to the legislature. And so, you know, using, and again, getting creative, using funding from medical marijuana licensing applications to say we're going to put aside some money to build this in St. Louis. In fact, the area where we decided to build is largely grown out of a conversation that we had while sitting in the governor's office, where the governor said, you know, this is the area where you ought to look. So we started looking there, and now here we are. So we're deeply grateful for that. He was and has been an invaluable catalyst in this process. We would not be here were it not for him making this a priority. That decision on his part and him sitting down with us is going to have a lot to do with why we will eventually become the first state to eradicate veterans' homelessness. I served in Jefferson City with the governor. I remember many years ago, I was the Secretary of State, and we were hearing about this young kid in the state Senate who was, I'll just let that ripple through the crowd. He's laughing, that's good. I was a little worried about that. No, we served together and we got some good things done together, and I appreciated that. I am, as you are, obviously familiar with Governor Parson's biography. I could read you the whole thing, but in the spirit of the day, as I introduce him here, I think I would just introduce him as former military police sergeant Mike Parson of the United States Army.
Let me just start off by saying, if I hadn't served my country 2 tours of duty overseas, I wouldn't be up here today. That's what that service meant to me. And as I look around here today, and first time I met Brian in Kansas City, the first time I actually met him, he was probably still paying off that second mortgage, to be right honest about it. And he shared this vision with me. And you know, people have visions sometimes. It's one thing to have a vision, but it's one thing to implement that vision and to really put it into action. And how I got involved with that, I just truly believe it's about helping veterans. It's not about handouts. It's about hand up. It's how do you help veterans get back on their feet? How do they deal with the situations we're in, no matter what they are? Their families, how do you get the families put back together? How do you get them to where maybe there's another veteran going to move into that tiny home, but they get to move out and they get their lives back in order? That's the goal of what this is. And I just seen so many fantastic things talking to Brian and his group at the time and Jason. But this is not about politics, all this going on right here. This is about paying a debt that we owe to every woman, every man that served this country to give us all the right to be here today in this street. I do want to thank, I know the mayor of Kansas City, I don't know where Quinton's at, Quinton here, Mayor Lyda's here. I just want to appreciate their support and their help and the vision of this. But I also want to talk about, there's some senators here. I know Carla May's here, Jamilah's here, I think Jill Schupp was here, Jill. But let me tell you, all these things wouldn't have happened if they hadn't exposed me to this area early on when I became governor, and come up here and walk down the streets and talk to the people, and was part of Grill for Glory, was part of Better Family Life. And when Jason came in to talk to me, and I said, this is where you need to look, it was because of those people set the groundwork to make sure I understood that and how important this is. But I'm telling you, for the community, for you councilmen, and all the people sitting out here today, to be able to have that, to be able to even try to stake claim on taking every veteran off the homeless list is a major task. Not one person can do it. But if we all work together and we put everything to the side and we do really what's best for people, that's what really makes a difference in the world. That's what makes a difference in all our lives. And I'm going to continue to support this project. When Jason and Brian come into my office, they sit down and talk to me, and I said, well, what are you guys thinking? I don't know what they was thinking when they asked for the amount they asked for, I can tell you that. I don't know what they were thinking. But anyhow, somehow, some way, they got it done. I don't know how. But it is an honor to be here today. It's an honor to support the men and women that serve this country. It will always be very dear to my heart. And to all of you veterans and all you veterans' wives and family members out there, I thank you for your service. It's just not always us veterans that get credit for that. It's the wives, it's the mothers, it's the daughters, it's all of our family members. So it is an honor and privilege to be the 57th Governor of the state of Missouri. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Missouri. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. So, in continuing with the story, we were able to, it wasn't too hard, we were able to convince the governor to put it in his budget, and then next we had to get it through the General Assembly. And so we knew that that might be a tall task, so we said, well, if we're going to get it through the General Assembly, we're going to need support from both sides. We're going to need it to be in both the House and the Senate, in their budget. We're going to need somebody who doesn't take any guff. We're going to need somebody who, when they get a project, you really don't want to get in their way. You already know that I'm talking about Senator Jamilah Nasheed, right? I served with Jamilah in the House. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Jamilah, she brought both parties together. She brought, both the House and the Senate together, and she made sure that when the budget was passed and when it made it to the governor's desk to be signed, that there was an appropriation in there for it. And I'm going to tell you, because there are people who represent organizations that can help us the rest of the way, the amount represents a portion, not even the majority, but a portion of what it will cost to do this. But it's an important step in the right direction. She was able to make sure that there was $2.5 million in there as a line item, and we deeply appreciate that. So with that, let's go ahead and bring her up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would first and foremost like to thank our good friend Jason Kander for all of his hard work and his dedication to the community project, Veterans Project. So let's give him a round of applause for his great work, as well as his team. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Alderman, Jesse Todd. If it wasn't but for Jesse Todd sponsoring the legislation, we wouldn't be here today. Literally, we wouldn't be here today. As well as Sharon Tyus, crafting the legislation and putting an emergency clause on there. Let's give Sharon a round of applause. My good friend, Mayor Lyda Krewson, thank you too. Let's give her a round of applause for all of her hard work and her dedication to the work within the veterans community. And last but not least, I would like to say thank you, Governor, for not vetoing that $2.5 million. It is truly an honor to be here dedicating this ground to the veterans community. Homelessness is one of the greatest issues we face in our city and in our country. Everyone deserves a warm place to live, and that is not on the grounds in the streets of St. Louis. As we all know, the Veterans Community Project is closing the gap between homes and homelessness. A village of tiny homes is a great investment for the veterans who have served this country to protect each and every one of us. As a public servant for a great state of Missouri, for the most of my life, I have dedicated my time to uplifting those that have fallen to the wayside, the fallen humanity. And that is something that I am proud of. That is something that I will continue to do even when I'm not in political office. I'm not going to be long here, but the homes offer a sanctuary for the emotional distressed individuals who have been on the streets each and every day. The homes give the men and women who have fought for this country the sense of dignity and the sense of pride. The homes, the veteran homes that we will have here will give our brothers and sisters, those who have served this country, the opportunity to get the wraparound service that they wouldn't have had if it wasn't but for the teamwork of the mayor, the governor, and the Veterans Project, along with myself and the alderman. So it takes a team, a dream team, to make things happen. So I would like to thank each and every one of you again for making this happen. And know that this is only the beginning. Know that we have others who are not veterans that are out on the streets sleeping each and every day with nowhere to go. And we have to show them the same type of pride that we're showing the veterans here today. And so I can't wait to see the expansion of the tiny homes for the homeless overall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Nasheed. Anytime we do a project like this, it only works when you have a great relationship with the city. That's how it started in Kansas City, and it's how it's going to go here. We appreciate so much everybody at the city, elected or otherwise, who has been a great partner already, and we know how important that partnership is going to be going forward. I mean, if you want to get an understanding as to why the municipal partnership is so important, take a second, look around, and then think about what this is going to look like when it's done. Think about what it looks like now, what it's going to look like when it's done, and then ask yourself whether or not there are possibly going to be some zoning things that have to be done. Along the way, there are always things that need to be changed. There are always little steps that need to be tinkered with, and it only works, a project like this, if you can pick up the phone and you can call folks at the city and say, hey, we need this, and our veterans, they can't wait on it. It's going to be cold on Thursday. We need this done on Wednesday. So it means a great deal to have the city on board, and that's why we're so grateful to have Mayor Lyda Krewson here with us and for her support. So let's bring her up. Thank you.
Wow, what a great crowd here today. I am just so honored to be here with you today. I gotta tell you, this is one of the best days of the last 3.5 years of being the mayor here, is to be able to do something like this that is going to be so impactful for our city, but more importantly, so impactful for the lives of the people that this project will serve, which is what being a public servant is all about. So I would like to recognize a few folks, of course. Veterans Community Project, Jason Kander. Jason Kander and Brian, this would not, literally, you can say it wouldn't have happened without me or without this would not have happened without Jason Kander and Brian. So let's give them a huge round of applause. It would not have happened without Senator Nasheed. There you go. It would not have happened without Governor Mike Parson. And you know what? It would not have happened had Kansas City not led the way on this. And I just want to recognize my friend, stand up Quinton, Mayor Quinton Lucas. Absolutely. And I just have to say thank you so much for coming over here to St. Louis. This is the state edge to edge, at least two sides, right? So thank you so much. The elected officials in the city of St. Louis, of course, Alderwoman Marlene Davis, Alderwoman Gwendolyn Evans, Alderman Jesse Todd, and Alderman Jeff Boyd, who's a veteran himself, and this is very special to him as well.
I am so proud of the work that they've done. And you know, Brian said something that usually would get a mayor a little off. He said, I hope the Veterans Community Project in St. Louis is even better than Kansas City's. And I will say this, maybe because I'm not home. I hope so too. Because that will challenge us. That will challenge the next project, and we will all just get better and better so we can make that difference for our veterans, so we can make that difference for everyone who's experiencing homelessness and needs our support. God bless you all. And thank you, St. Louis.
So I'm going to go back for just a second. We're going to go back to the story. So you know what happened in the story so far. So far, the governor went ahead and made sure that the money was in his budget. And then Senator Nasheed got that money through the House and the Senate. Both parties on board, $2.5 million. There is one more thing that has to happen. There's one more step in the process. And that is that the Missouri Veterans Commission has to finally, and this hasn't happened yet, has to finally go ahead and award that money specifically put into the budget for this project, has to actually award that money over the coming weeks to this project. Now, our friend Senator Jill Schupp is on the Missouri Veterans Commission. So no pressure or anything like that, but now we are counting on Senator Schupp to go make sure that her colleagues understand that it's time to go ahead and punch this into the end zone, and that's exactly what Senator Schupp is going to do. We're going to bring her up to talk about that real quick.
Hi, everybody. No pressure. Thank you. It's not a busy time for me, so I don't mind at all. Actually, I'm going to move this a bit. I am so honored and delighted to be here with all of you today. You know, Brian Meyer, you had a vision, and look what you're building. And look at all the people who have stepped up to be a part of this and to be a part of changing people's future. Governor Parson, Senator Nasheed, Mayor Krewson, Dr. Andrade, I hope I said that correctly, Jason, Brian, Mayor Lucas for traveling here, and honored veterans, colleagues, and friends. I'm so delighted to be here. I'm State Senator Jill Schupp, and let me tell you a little bit about my experience and why I care so deeply about what's going on and what is starting right here today. I happen to be the founder of the Missouri Veterans History Project, and Brian told me just today that that organization will be working with his organization to make sure our veterans' stories are kept in perpetuity for their families and our historians. I happen to be a legislator who works on issues of mental health, including reducing veteran suicide. I'm also a member of the Senate Veterans Committee, and as you heard from my dear friend Jason, a member of the Missouri Veterans Commission. But probably my most important credential for being here is I am the proud daughter of a World War II Marine veteran of blessed memory. The Veterans Community Project, as you've heard today, is going to serve so many members of our homeless veterans community, moving Missouri, as you've heard several times from Jason, moving us to be the very first state in our nation to be able to eradicate veteran homelessness. How about that, Missouri? We know, and I know so well from serving in the legislature, that Missouri cares deeply about its veterans. Now, I'm a member of the Veteran Commission whose vision is to provide high quality, compassionate care for veterans, seamlessly integrated with the veteran community, emphasizing a culture of transparency and excellence. Your project, Brian, has hit the nail on the head. I take my responsibilities on behalf of those who have served this nation very seriously, and as you have already heard, money was put first into the governor's budget for this particular project, and it gained the bipartisan support of the majority and minority parties in both the House and the Senate. That is that deep reservoir of goodwill that you heard Jason talk about earlier today. And it is now in the hands of the Missouri Veterans Commission, where a vote will take place later this month. And I am so delighted to be here to support the project at the Missouri Veterans Commission, having heard from so many different people who've been responsible for getting us to this point, and knowing that there are so many people standing up and willing to work to bring this vision to fruition. This $2.5 million designated from the voters' passage of medical marijuana with veterans in mind is only a portion of what this project costs. But that commitment played a major role in allowing the Veterans Community Project to move forward and to begin raising the private funds it needs. And the need is clear. There are those who have served who now need our support. And this solution was tailored for veterans and by veterans, and is truly going to change the lives of our Missouri veterans and those who appreciate them, respect them, and love them. I want to say thank you to the brave women and men who have served our nation. We will not leave you behind. You were willing to risk your lives to protect the places we call home. Today is the start of providing you with a safe place that you can call home. Thank you.
All right, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it takes land, it takes local champions, and it takes money to get this done. You're standing on the land. I've told you all about the local champions, and the money from the state, while very important, is only a part of the equation. Ultimately, we will get this done with charitable contributions. Which brings me to our last part of this program, which is I want to tell you about our relationship with Veterans United Foundation. Veterans United Foundation actually predates me in terms of its involvement with Veterans Community Project. When you're building something like this, particularly when you're building the first one, as Brian will tell you, probably the hardest part is getting people to pay for the least sexy parts of this project, right? Maybe it's slightly easier to get people to pay for houses that they can sponsor and put their name on and that kind of thing. What's very difficult to get people to pay for is the first thing that has to get done: sewers. And you can really tell the commitment of an organization, the commitment of a charitable supporter, by the fact that they will step in and say, we will help pay for the sewers. That's what Veterans United Foundation did in Kansas City with the initial project with our first village. And they didn't just do that. They had volunteers out there all the time. They still, when we need volunteers, we'll have volunteers out there. There's been ongoing grants. It's a great relationship. And a few months ago, they came to us and they said, hey, by the way, what can we help with now? And we said, well, hey, we have an idea for you. And we said, you're expanding to St. Louis. Why don't we expand to St. Louis together? So for more about this partnership, we're going to be joined by Dr. Amanda Andrade, the Chief People Officer for Veterans United Home Loans. Dr. Andrade is responsible for supporting the growth, innovation, success, health, and happiness of VU employees. And what makes VU special is that for them, that happiness, that often means getting out in the community and just making a difference. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Andrade for an announcement.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for showing up and showing your support for VCP. It is so important that we come together as individuals and as a community to really make this happen. And you've heard all of these speeches today and the way that everyone has bent who they are and maybe what their political beliefs are, what their community beliefs are, and they've come together to make a difference. And that's what this country is about. That's what we're about. We're here to make collectively good decisions for others and good decisions for people who are vulnerable. In our nation, the service members and the veterans have sacrificed so much for each and every one of us. So we get to live the dream of being free and being in this democracy. It is so important that we turn around and take care of those who are vulnerable. That's what we're here for. That's why we show up today. And that's why we'll continue to make a difference. I am so excited and honored to be here representing our 4,000 Veterans United employees. Every one of our employees are committed to taking care of our veterans and making sure that they get into homes. They deserve it. The GI Bill is meant for them. They deserve to have homes. They deserve to have that security. And we have the ability to make that difference for our most vulnerable. To get our men and women who have served and are down on their luck back on their feet. To get our men and women who have served and need help navigating what can be a very complex system, the help, the love, the care, and support that they deserve. At Veterans United, our foundation is employee-run. Over 90% of our employees donate 1% of every single paycheck so we can help others. We do it because it means so much to us, and we do it because we care. If you're a Veterans United employee that came here today and made the trip, could you stand up? I just want you to see. These are folks that say, this matters. We appreciate the relationship with Brian and Jason. It means so much that we're able to come together and help them make this dream a reality. And so with that, I would like to say our Veterans United Foundation, our collective 4,000 employees, have pulled together to donate a $500,000 grant to the program to make a difference. I never quite know what to do with these checks. It feels so cheesy, but here it is. Cash it. Take this bad boy to the bank. Thank you all for showing up, and thank you for caring. We'll work together to make a difference. We're going to make a difference in this community for our veterans. They deserve it.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, that was a good way. All ceremonies should end that way, personally, in my view. I want to thank everybody for being here today, but first, actually, I'd like to point out that I think it is a good omen that on the day that we kick off VCP STL, it's actually the day that we receive the largest charitable gift that we've ever received. So thank you again to Veterans United Foundation. I will just end where I think Brian ended, which is reminding everybody here that this is not like, okay, we cut the figurative ribbon and now we're all just going to feel good about this. There's a ton of stuff left to do. We're going to have to raise the money and build this stuff. So I will end with a saying that we have, which is that the special thing about VCP is that this is your opportunity to do more than thank a vet. It's your opportunity to be more than thankful. It is your opportunity to be involved. So we hope that over the next few years, over the next few months especially, we see all of these same faces out here as well. We're going to be swinging hammers and putting up houses, and we deeply appreciate your support. Thank you, St. Louis.